The ranch sat alone at the edge of the plains, where the land stretched wide and quiet, and the wind spoke louder than people ever did. It was the kind of place most travelers missed. No grand gate, no guards, no noise. Just a low wooden fence, a weathered house, and the soft movement of cattle under the open sky. To anyone watching from a distance, it looked defenseless, easy, forgotten. That's why the raiders chose it. They came just before dusk when the sun burned low and red, and shadows grew long enough to hide bad intentions. 5 riders, faces covered, horses trained for speed and fear. These men had done this before. Ride in fast, take what they wanted, leave nothing but dust and silence behind. They had robbed caravans, burned barns, and broken families without a second thought. To them, this ranch was just another mark. Easy pickings, one of them muttered as they slowed their horses on a nearby ridge. Below them, the ranch looked quiet. Too quiet. No guards, no guns glinting in the sun, no men pacing the yard. Only one thing stood out. On the fence, hanging like a banner against the fading light, was a white buffalo hide. The raiders noticed it but didn't understand it, not yet. They laughed it off. Probably some old superstition, another rider said. Means nothing. They urged their horses forward. Inside the house, old Thomas Gray stood by the window, his hands rough and trembling, not from fear but from age. The ranch had been in his family for generations. He had buried his wife there, raised his son there, and buried him too. Now only his granddaughter Lily remained. She stood behind him, clutching his coat. "Grandpa, someone's coming." Thomas nodded slowly. He had seen them too. He turned his eyes toward the fence, toward the white hide swaying gently in the wind. He had hung it there years ago, not as protection, but as a reminder, a promise, a warning. "Stay inside," he told Lily quietly, "no matter what you hear." Outside, the raiders crossed the fence line. The moment they did, the wind changed. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't loud. But it was real. The air grew heavy, pressing against their chests, slowing their breath. Horses snorted nervously, hooves stamping the dirt. One raider pulled his horse to a stop. "Do you feel that?" Another laughed, but his voice shook. "It's nothing." Then they saw it clearly. The white buffalo hide, not dirty, not old, bright even in the dying light. Marked with simple symbols, hand-painted in dark red, telling a story older than any of them. One of the raiders froze. "No," he whispered. "That can't be." The leader turned sharply. "What?" "That hide. It's sacred." The word hung in the air like smoke. The laughter died. Among the plains tribes, the white buffalo was not just an animal, it was a sign, rare, powerful, a symbol of balance, warning, and consequence. To disrespect it was to invite something far worse than bad luck. "You're telling me a piece of skin is going to scare us?" The leader snapped. But even as he spoke, his horse refused to move forward. Another raider dismounted slowly, his hands shaking. Memories surfaced. Stories his grandmother had told him as a child. Stories of men who ignored the sign. Men who never returned. "This ranch isn't empty," he said quietly. "It's protected." The leader cursed and drew his weapon. That was when a voice carried across the yard. "Turn back." Old Thomas stepped out onto the porch, standing straight despite his years. He held no gun, no knife, just a calm that made the air feel still. "You don't belong here," he said. "Leave now." The raiders stared at him, one old man alone. And yet, none of them moved. The hide fluttered again. A low rumble rolled across the plains, not thunder, not quite. The horses reared, panic in their eyes. One raider dropped to his knees. "We should go," he begged. "Please." The leader looked around, rage battling fear. He had never backed down before, but this time, something was watching, something ancient, something patient, something that did not forgive. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the raiders made their choice. They turned. They fled. Dust swallowed them as they rode hard into the dark, never looking back. Thomas exhaled slowly. Behind him, Lily stepped onto the porch. "They're gone?" she asked. "Yes," he said, his eyes still on the hide. "But this story isn't over." The wind whispered through the plains, and somewhere far away, consequences were already moving. The night settled over the ranch, stars burning cold and sharp above. Thomas sat at the kitchen table while Lily slept nearby, curled under a blanket. He watched the lantern flame flicker, knowing the raiders would not forget what they had seen. And neither would he. Long ago, before fences and borders, before men thought they owned the land, a white buffalo had been born under a blood-red moon. The elders said it was a message, one of warning and hope. Protect the balance or lose everything. Thomas had been young then. He had seen the hide with his own eyes, had sworn an oath to respect what it represented. Now the test had come. Far from the ranch, the raiders stopped riding. One by one, fear caught up with them. One man collapsed, gasping for breath, though no one touched him. Another swore he heard hooves behind them, heavy, slow, impossible. They argued, blamed each other, tried to explain away what they felt. But deep down they knew they had crossed a line. By morning, 2 of them would turn back toward the ranch, not to attack, but to make things right, to return what they had stolen elsewhere, to apologize. The others would ride on, haunted forever by the image of that hide glowing in the dusk. Back at the ranch, Thomas stepped outside as dawn broke. The white hide still hung on the fence, calm and unmoving now. Lily joined him. "Why did they leave?" she asked. Thomas smiled gently. "Because some things in this world don't need weapons to protect them." The ranch still stood. The cattle grazed. Life went on. But the plains remembered, and so did the men who tried to take what was never theirs.